Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Oh, always. It's so great to have you sitting at the table with us for another deep dive.
Absolutely.
So today, I actually want you to just close your eyes for a second.
Who's setting the scene right away? I like it.
Yeah, I want you to picture a very specific scene. We're stepping right out of the gate into 1964 Kansas City.
But not the shiny postcard version.
No, definitely not. We are deep in the West Bottoms. It is an era defined by just this thick, choking fog,
Oh,
the relentless noise, the smell of those massive livestock pens, and these really long, menacing shadows cast by a city that is still, very much entangled in mob politics.
it's such a heavy atmosphere.
It really is. That is our setting today, and our mission for this deep dive is to completely unpack Chapter 2 of the serialized story, The Butcher of the Bottoms.
Right.
This specific installment is ominously titled The Scalpel's Shadow.
Which is, it really is an incredibly evocative title. It perfectly sets the mood for what we are about to explore today. Because we have a massive stack of materials to get through, we want to help you understand exactly what is happening as this narrative expands.
So on the desk today, we are looking at excerpts from the original series Bible.
Which, just for those who might not know, the Bible is the foundational reference document that the writers use. It establishes the rigid rules, the hidden lore, and really the architectural blueprint of this entire fictional universe.
Exactly. And alongside the Bible, we have several specific, very tense primary text documents from the chapter itself.
Some really good ones.
We have Document E, which is a gritty transcript of a warehouse confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Document F, an investigative reporter's private unpublished log. And Document G.
Oh, Document G.
Yeah, a deeply chilling personal police report.
It's a heavy one. We're also pulling slightly from Document H, actually.
Right.
The coroner's autopsy summary.
Right.
We need that to help bridge the gap from our last deep dive.
Yeah, you already know the haunting details of Silo 4 from our previous session.
Yeah.
The posed victim, that pristine blue velvet dress clashing with the dirty grain.
The faint smell of formaldehyde.
Yes, and those surgically cauterized fingertips.
Just horrific. But what we didn't have then, and what Document H gives us now, is a name.
Right. She isn't just a Jane Doe anymore.
No. Her name was Martha Hayes, a local choir girl from Rosedale.
Putting a name to the victim, it really grounds the tragedy.
It does.
Bet.
But it also fundamentally accelerates the panic within the city. What we are going to do in today's deep dive is track how this single, seemingly isolated crime scene at the grain silo rapidly fractures.
Fractures completely.
We are moving from a localized mystery into a sprawling, terrifying, citywide conspiracy, one that really threatens to pull everyone into the dark.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the geographic shift in this chapter is huge.
Yeah, it really widens the lens.
We're moving away from the initial shock of the grain silo and plunging straight into the city's corrupt underbelly, specifically the warehouse district.
The West Bottoms.
Right. Document E drops us right into the middle of a confrontation that honestly feels like it's pulled straight from a classic noir film.
It really plays out like a movie scene.
It takes place just 24 hours after Martha Hayes was discovered.
Yeah.
We have Detective Jack Sullivan.
Sully.
Right,
Yeah.
Sully. Who is your classic 1960s grizzled, chain-smoking KCPD veteran.
He knows the corrupt system intimately. He essentially operates within its gray area.
Exactly. And beside him is Detective Marcus Thorne.
Thorne is fascinating.
He is a brilliant, college-educated pioneer in forensics, and he also happens to be one of the first Black homicide detectives in a heavily prejudiced department.
Yeah, and they're aggressively questioning Big Sal Marino. He's a mid-level mob enforcer who runs the warehouses in the West Bottoms.
The dynamic in that room is electric.
It really requires us to look closely at the historical context of a detective like Marcus Thorne operating in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
During the height of the civil rights movement, a Black detective in a historically white prejudice department like the KCPD wouldn't just have to be good. He would have to be flawless. Every single deduction he makes is scrutinized.
And here he is walking into mob-controlled territory to question a man who essentially operates above the law.
Right. And Big Sal makes a very compelling logistical point to the detectives during this interrogation. He tells them outright, his men work the docks, they watch those warehouse yards 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right. I actually have the transcript of Document E right here. Big Sal laughs at Sully and says, "You think my boys don't see a stiff moving through the yard? The fog's thick, Sully, but it ain't blind."
It ain't blind.
I love that line.
Okay.
But it highlights the fundamental impossibility of the crime.
Exactly.
The West Bottoms is mob turf.
Yeah.
You don't sneeze in that district without a boss knowing about it.
As Detective Thorne deduces, the odds of a stranger dragging a dead, velvet-clad body through a mob-controlled yard without a pass or paying someone off.
Practically zero.
It completely defies logic.
Which forces the narrative into this brilliant corner. If the killer didn't walk through the yard, how did the body get to the silo?
Well, Big Sal realizes the cops aren't going to let this go. And a heavy police presence is bad for business.
Very bad for business.
So he gives up a crucial piece of information. He admits that his night watchman actually did see something unusual.
But it wasn't a thug dragging a body.
No. The watchman saw a figure moving through the fog, someone he actually dubbed the White Ghost.
The White Ghost?
And this ghost wasn't carrying a victim. He was carrying a vintage leather medical bag.
That detail of the medical bag, it immediately reinforces the surgical precision we saw on Martha Hayes.
Exactly.
But the real bombshell is where this white ghost was seen. According to Big Sal, the figure didn't walk down the street or climb over a fence.
Yep.
He emerged from the old, heavy iron grates near the 12th Street Bridge.
Those grates cover the sealed utility tunnels.
Which changes everything.
It changes everything. This is where the series Bible provides incredible historical grounding.
Yeah.
Those tunnels aren't just a convenient plot device. They are a direct nod to Kansas City's real-world history. The Bible details how the city rests on a massive, hidden subterranean labyrinth. It was built during the era of Tom Pendergast,
The infamous political boss.
the one who practically ruled the city in the 20s and 30s. Pendergast owned a ready-mix concrete company and essentially paved the city himself, creating these sprawling underground utility and bootlegging tunnels.
That were eventually just sealed off and forgotten by the general public.
Right.
So if we think about the logistics of that, it means all the police barricades, all the mob lookouts on the surface.
Useless.
They're completely useless. The killer's literally walking right under their feet. He has co-opted this forgotten political infrastructure to transport his experiments entirely unseen.
It perfectly explains the lack of street-level witnesses and how someone could deposit a perfectly clean body into a filthy environment without leaving a single trail.
And that realization necessitates a complete shift in investigative strategy.
Huge shift.
If he's using the tunnels to move bodies, that tells us the silo is just a convenient drop point.
Yep.
It isn't where the actual work is happening.
Which brings us perfectly to our next source, Document F.
The investigative log of Eleanor Vance.
Eleanor is such a fascinating character.
She really is. She comes from high society.
Yeah.
But she has this absolute relentless grit to her.
Yeah.
She is stuck writing for the ladies section of the Kansas City Star because, well, it's 1964 and the newsroom is a boys' club.
Right.
But she is out there secretly investigating these murders to land the story of her career.
She is the one connecting the dots between high society rumors and these low-rent crime scenes.
I love this line from her private log in Document F. She writes, "The police are mapping the graveyard when they should be looking for the operating theater."
The operating theater, that phrasing is chillingly accurate.
It really is.
Eleanor points out a massive flaw in the KCPD's current strategy. They are obsessing over the logistics of Silo 4. But Eleanor reasons that if Martha Hayes was prepared with such surgical perfection
Pump full of hospital-grade sedatives.
and had her fingertips carefully amputated and cauterized.
Then this wasn't done in a dirty tunnel or an abandoned warehouse.
Exactly. The police need to find the sterile, heavily controlled environment where these horrific surgeries take place.
And Eleanor doesn't just theorize about a theater. She actually provides a prime suspect to fill it.
Oh, yeah, she does.
She has been digging into a man named Dr. Eris Thorne.
A disgraced surgeon.
Right. Who, according to her notes, was quietly fired from a prestigious private hospital back in 1961.
But he wasn't fired for a simple surgical mistake.
Yeah.
He was specifically accused of stealing large quantities of sodium pentothal.
What's fascinating here is how that specific detail ties the entire medical profile together.
It really does.
Remember that Document H, the coroner's report we talked about earlier, explicitly states that sodium pentothal was the rare, hospital-grade sedative found in Martha Hayes' blood.
And to understand the significance of this in 1964, you have to realize that pharmaceutical tracking wasn't what it is today.
Right, definitely not.
You couldn't just casually acquire sodium pentothal on the street. It required serious medical access.
Yeah.
Stealing it indicates someone who is deeply embedded in the medical establishment, someone who understands exactly how to administer it without immediately stopping a patient's heart.
It is the absolute smoking gun connecting this disgraced doctor to the girl in the grain.
Yes.
But, okay, we have to address the glaring, almost uncomfortable detail sitting right in the middle of this chapter.
The name.
The name. The suspect's name is Dr. Eris Thorne. The brilliant forensic detective hunting him is Marcus Thorne.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks this shared last name is almost too much of a coincidence, like it's an intentional red herring thrown in by the writers to distract us.
I get that.
But on the other hand, knowing the thematic depth of this series, it feels like a deliberate mirror being held up to the two characters.
I actually lean heavily toward it being a thematic mirror, and the series Bible actually teases this ambiguity. There's a hidden note that just says, no relation to Marcus, or is he?
Oh, wow.
In a city as segregated and tense as 1964 Kansas City, having your black protagonist share a surname with the prime suspect, who appears to be a wealthy, disgraced white surgeon.
Exactly. It adds immense layers of historical and narrative complexity. Often, shared surnames in historically segregated regions point back to dark, complex, ancestral histories.
Involving enslavement or forced labor.
Right. So whether they are blood relatives tied by this historical trauma, or merely sharing a cosmic coincidence, the narrative binds the detective and the killer together.
Wow.
They are two sides of the same city, one fighting for every inch of legitimate authority, and the other using his privileged, invisible status to commit atrocities.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it.
It's dark, but it fits perfectly.
And Eleanor's log takes Dr. Eris Thorne's history a step further into something truly nightmarish. She ties his past to a term the series Bible calls the Vane Legacy.
I Vane the Legacy.
For those who haven't read the expanded lore, the Vane Legacy is a dark reference to an older historical dynasty of underground black market surgeons in the city.
And the Bible states that the butcher is obsessed with improvement, treating each victim as a new experiment in surgical alteration.
Which is just
Horrifying. Building on that, Eleanor deduces a terrifying timeline. If Dr. Eris Thorne was stealing surgical sedatives way back in 1961, then this compulsion didn't just start with Martha Hayes in 1964.
No. A surgeon doesn't start with perfectly cauterized amputations and flawlessly staged bodies out of nowhere.
Exactly. There is a learning curve to that level of madness.
Yeah.
Eleanor concludes that Martha is simply an escalation. She is the first alteration that the butcher felt was perfect enough to put on public display in his twisted gallery.
Which implies there are older, hidden mistakes out there.
Yes!
Years of undocumented victims that the KCPD doesn't even know to look for.
It's a terrifying scope.
It is. And just as you think the scope of this conspiracy is the scariest part of the chapter, the narrative takes all that sprawling terror and just shoves it into a single claustrophobic room.
The apartment scene.
Yes. I want to shift our focus to Document G, which is the personal report filed by Detective Marcus Thorne.
Up until this point in the story, Detective Thorne has been the absolute epitome of detached forensic logic.
Very analytical.
Highly analytical. He relies on science, and he views the crime scenes as complex puzzles to be solved from a safe academic distance.
Right.
Document G shatters that professional detachment completely.
It really does. Thorne writes that after spending all day at the precinct analyzing the logistics of the underground tunnels and the autopsy reports, he finally goes home to his apartment.
You lock the door.
He locks the door. And within seconds of stepping inside, his forensic mind registers that something is wrong.
His sanctuary has been breached.
Yes. But what is so deeply unsettling isn't what the intruder did. It's what they actively chose not to do.
Right.
Thorne specifically notes in Document G, he says, item undisturbed, cash on the dresser, item undisturbed, Colt .38 service weapon on nightstand.
This was absolutely not a burglary.
No.
It was a calculated psychological strike. The intruder...
Who we can safely assume is our butcher.
Yes, moving through the shadows. The butcher bypassed valuables and weapons to leave a highly specific signature behind.
Right.
Resting deliberately on the rotary dial of Detective Thorne's telephone
Lover.
was a single silk bandage.
God.
But it wasn't just tossed there. It was tied in a flawless, interrupted surgeon's knot.
Just sitting there on the phone, the one device he would use to call for backup.
Yep.
Thorne translates the implicit message perfectly in his report. He writes that the knot means, I saw you looking at my work in the silo. Now I'm looking at you.
Consider the psychological profile of a killer who does this.
It's so twisted.
Imagine you are working tirelessly against a prejudiced system to stop a monster. You come back to the one place in the world where you are supposed to be safe, where you can finally let your guard down.
Yeah.
And you find a meticulously placed token from the very monster you are hunting.
To their own home.
It is an incredibly intimate violation of space, and this beautifully executes the core theme of the entire series, which the Bible explicitly labels the odds of survival.
The narrative violently shifts gears right there.
Precisely. The stakes are no longer just professional. Thorne is no longer merely a cop trying to solve a puzzle.
He's on the board.
He has been forced onto the board as an active participant. The butcher knows exactly where he sleeps, what his apartment looks like, and how to bypass his locks without making a sound.
The odds of this investigation ending without another body have just plummeted.
And Thorne is now in a desperate, deeply personal fight for his own survival.
It is such a brilliant, breathless way to end the chapter. Let's just recap the sheer descent we've taken in this deep dive.
It's been a ride.
In the space of just a few documents, you have been taken from a bizarre, staged body in a dirty grain silo down into the claustrophobic, mob-run, historical underground tunnels of the city.
Right under the streets.
We've sifted through the dark, disgraced medical history of a surgeon obsessed with improvement. And we finally ended up standing in the violently violated sanctuary of our lead detective's home, staring at a surgeon's knot on a telephone dial.
It perfectly encapsulates the enduring appeal of this specific brand of 1964 noir.
Yeah.
The genre loves to take the typical power dynamic of a police procedural and entirely subvert it.
Totally.
It strips away the armor, the badge, and the inherent authority of the investigators. It proves to the audience and to the terrified characters themselves that in this foggy, corrupt city, absolutely no one is untouchable.
No one.
The badge does not protect you from the scalpel.
Oof. And before we let you go today, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over as you process all of this.
That's a big one.
We now know the butcher can navigate the sealed underground utility tunnels of Kansas City to completely evade the mob.
He's a ghost.
We know he has the medical expertise to acquire rare sedatives and perform flawless amputations. And we know he can effortlessly slip past police locks to leave a terrifying, silent message inside a detective's private home.
Which means we have to ask the lingering question. If he can move like an absolute ghost through the veins of the city, who else is he standing in the shadows watching right now?
Oh, God.
Furthermore, we know he views his victims as surgical experiments in improvement. He doesn't just kill, he fundamentally alters them.
Right.
So what twisted, horrific procedure does he already have planned for the detective who is actively trying to put him behind bars? How does he plan to improve Marcus Thorne?
That is a deeply chilling thought to leave on. Thank you so much for sitting down at the table and joining us in the shadows today.
Always a pleasure.
We love taking these deep dives with you, dissecting these intricate worlds. Stay curious, keep exploring the sources on your own, and we will see you next time.